there was this huge cast of 16 characters, and I think they were all trying to figure out how it was going to work and whether we were going to try to get all 16 actors into each episode. And then eventually they sort of settled into this idea that there would be, you get to star in your own episode, and then there's 3 or 4 characters around you, and there's some weeks when you work a lot, and there's other weeks when you don't work a lot. And then...
Yeah, some weeks you're the star, and other weeks you're the extra.
Yeah, so you might be in one scene or something, and the actors never got the scripts until 2 or 3 days before shooting, and so they actually had no idea what was going on as they were making the show. We didn't tell them, well, this is what's coming up, this is what's in store for your character, and that actually made them very present, and it made them, I think, very much like the characters. They were like the characters. They didn't know what was around the next bush. They didn't know what that trek was going to lead to, and they all kind of made their peace with it. Even in the finale, we expected that they would all come to us. We withheld some scenes at the very end of the finale from them. We didn't publish the very end of the script, and actually none of them, we expected them to be calling us up and saying, well, what is the missing material? But they were all used to this process by which they would just do what was next.
We went down for the shooting of the final scene of the show, and we basically addressed everybody who was in that scene, and there were a large number of them, and we said, if you guys have now read the scene, if anybody wants further illumination, Carlton and I are right over there. And one of the actors said, why start now?
It wasn't actually the final scene, but it was one of the last scenes.
It's the penultimate scene.
You're going to do it now? Finally, you're going to spoil it in like 3 days before it's all over?
We're so close.
We're so close. Keep your mouth shut.
All right.
Good God.
What were the emotions that, when you went to Hawaii for the filming of the finale of those final scenes, what were the emotions?
I think, for us, when we finished writing the script, we basically left out the final scene, and we said, we'll write it in 2 weeks. We want to hold that back so that we don't have to say we're done. And then we went down to Hawaii, and finally we wrote it, and we said, but we're not actually done because we're still shooting it, and even then we have the editing. And then we realized, okay, we're totally, Elizabeth Kubler-Rossing it. We are in deep denial about the fact that, that we've actually finished, and we just, so even this morning we're like, no, we have to do the Times talk tonight. We're not done. And of course, once we're out of denial, we'll move on to anger, and that'll be, you don't want to be around for that. Trust us.
But I think it was very emotional to be in Hawaii because, you have the show about all these disparate people that have come together under extraordinary circumstances to kind of form a community. But that's not only the show, it's what happened behind the scenes, the people that made the show. And when you see the crew hauling gear up the side of these muddy trails in the jungle in Hawaii and working 16-hour days.
And cursing you.
And cursing us. Well, exactly. It's a good thing.
Can we curse?
It's a good...
In the movie theaters, is this an NC-17?
Really? Yeah. This is like your...
Right. What's the story?
No.
Let's keep it family friendly.
I understand.
Anyway, so they were all sort of in the mourning process too because they'd all worked with each other for 6 years, and so they were all sort of saying goodbye. I think for us the most emotional moment came the day that we went to the scoring stage because Michael Cicchino's music plays such a big part in the show, and there we were watching the scenes of the finale as a live orchestra was playing Michael's beautiful music over it, and that sort of their sense of finality and kind of completeness when we actually saw those scenes with the music was really emotional. And there were guys from the DVD people filming us there, and we were like, first of all, they kicked Damon out because he was crying too loud. It was actually, he was making too much noise during the scoring.
The cellist was literally like, what's your problem?
And I was trying to cry without making noise, and we're like, oh, this is going to be so embarrassing on the DVDs to watch this. But no, it was so emotionally, that was, I think, really, that's really when it kind of sunk in that, oh my gosh, we just, this is over, and the journey is coming to a conclusion, and it's been such a meaningful part of our lives and everyone who's worked on the show, and our interaction with all of you has been such a big part of the community that's formed around Lost. Has been such an extraordinary event in our lives that it's really sad to see it come to an end.
Did you have any idea that it would turn into sort of this phenomenon?
No, there are people in this audience who are well aware of exactly what I thought was going to happen, which is that the show would be canceled after 10 episodes, and I would be revealed to be a fraud, and that people would come with torches to my house and all these things. And then about 7 or 8 episodes in, Carlton came along and sort of infused the show with this sense of incredible optimism, which is, you know, let's just worry about the episode that's right in front of us and the mysteries that we're putting right in front of people, and you don't have to project out, you know, 2 or 3 seasons from now. Let's just worry about what's right in front of you. And so,
but there was that day that the pilot aired, and you know, the ratings came out, and of course, you know, if you're a television writer producer, this is like winning the lottery when you actually have success. I mean, Lost came out, it did a huge ratings number, and I remember Damon came into my office and he was holding the rating sheet and he was practically in tears, and he goes, "Does this mean we have to keep doing this?"
I think the emerging theme is that I cry a lot. So let's see if we can make it happen tonight, kids. You know? So let's see if we can get there.
Yeah. So do your best, Barbara Walters, Lauren.
Okay,
Come on now.
Yeah, we'll do that. One of the things we're also going to be doing tonight is we're showing some clips from previous seasons. So the first clip we're going to see gets at, you know, your show traffics in a lot of very sort of big themes: fate versus free will, good versus evil, faith versus reason, whether to take Sawyer's shirt off in this episode or another episode.
Yes, of course.
But let's look at this clip, and then when we come back, talk a little bit about sort of what you were trying to get at in this scene.
You do it, Jack.
What?
You have to do it.
You do it yourself, John.
No, you saw the film, Jack. This is a 2-person job, at least.
This argument is irrelevant. Said, don't.
Jack.
Don't. It's not real. Look, you want to push the button, you do it yourself.
If it's not real, then what are you doing here, Jack? Why did you come back? Why do you find it so hard to believe?
Why do you find it so easy?
It's never been easy!
Maybe you should just do it.
No. It's a button.
I can't do this alone, Jack. I don't want to. It's a leap of faith, Jack.
So in this, you know, you're talking about faith, reason, but characters go back and forth with this. What's driving that when writing that scene?
Well, you know, the first thing is that in most sort of science fiction genre shows, the approach to this scene might be that the characters would be sitting around talking about, like, okay, how is this button connected to whatever detonation device it's connected to? How do we disassemble it? How do we take it apart? How do we stop the timer? You know, who built it? You know, and those kinds of mechanical questions that are sort of very plot-oriented. I mean, this scene, we chose this clip because it really kind of distinguishes the way in which we approach storytelling differently than maybe other shows that are sort of in this sort of genre. And so instead of having the characters talking about that, we decided to take this theme of faith and kind of use that as the nexus of what would actually drive the discussion between these two characters.
And, you know, Locke and Jack started this conversation in the season 1 finale when Locke is basically saying, I think we're here for a reason, I don't know what it is. But now he's referring to this Dharma film that they saw. But the most important part of the scene, the operative part of the scene, is that Locke says to Jack, I don't want to do this alone.